Hey there! So you want to learn Kanban, huh? Our approach to training videos is to get to the point, skip all the fluff, and do it in a way that really gives you those aha moments, where you're like, oh, I get it. So let's get started. What is Kanban? Kanban is basically a work management system for a team. It's a way for a team to manage their work. Okay, great. There are many ways for a team to manage their work. What is so special about Kanban? Good question. Let's talk about that. So here's our team. Whether they use Kanban or not, our team has a bunch of work to do. It's in progress while they work on it and goes into a done pile once complete. Now, what do our customers care about? Assuming our team is delivering work that is truly valuable to our customers, which is outside the scope of Kanban in this video, what else do our customers care about? Our customers care about throughput and lead time. They may ask, how many work items can I get in a week? Or how long do I need to wait for one work item to finish? So let's take a look at our system of work in action, whether it's Kanban or not, and measure its throughput and lead time. So for 5 days, we worked on stuff. We finished 3 items, while 4 are still in progress. So our throughput is 3 items per week, and our lead time is 3 days for 1 item. So let's go back to our original question. Why should a team use Kanban to manage their work? Kanban is designed to maximize throughput. Maybe our team is capable of delivering 6 items per week. Kanban is also designed to minimize lead time. Maybe our customer can have their item in 1 day instead of 3 days. Okay, great, but there are other ways to manage a team's work to maximize throughput and minimize lead time. We could just work harder and longer hours. I don't need Kanban for that. Isn't it just about how hard we work? Well, you could work harder. That's one way. But how long would that last? Would the team eventually burn out? Would our team members leave us to work somewhere less stressful? Is this way of working sustainable in the long run? With Kanban, you can maximize throughput and minimize lead time while avoiding burnout. Kanban is a sustainable way of achieving all this. It keeps our team and our customers happy by working smarter, not harder. So how does Kanban maximize throughput and minimize lead time in a sustainable way? Ta-da-da! Putting it simply, it does it by managing flow. The magic is to keep things moving. Okay, I'm not sure I buy that, but I'll play along for now. So how does Kanban keep the work flowing? Well, at a high level, at least 3 things immediately come to mind. It could easily take an entire video to properly explain each one of these. We'll briefly explain the first 2 and dig a little deeper into the last one. First, Kanban is designed to reduce multitasking. Wait a minute, did you just say reduce multitasking? I thought multitasking was good. I put it on my resume. Yes, it turns out multitasking actually slows the flow of work, reducing throughput and increasing lead time, which is the complete opposite of what we want. This is so fascinating that I will create a separate video to show you. You'll be blown away. Second, Kanban makes bottlenecks in our system of work visible so we can address them. But hold on, let's back up a little. Kanban is inherently designed to avoid certain types of bottlenecks out of the box. The thing is, some types of bottlenecks can still occur, and Kanban is designed to make them visible so we can address them. Third, Kanban is what we call a pull system, which promotes a healthy flow of work. Let's dig deeper into this aspect of Kanban. Let's take a look at our team and how they work. Let's say our team can handle 4 work items at a time. Now, our boss tells us we must work on a 5th item. Let's see what happens. Our system of work will break down. We can't handle that load. We call this push mentality, which stems from a command and control style of management. We want to avoid push mentality if we want to manage flow in a healthy way. So let's try another way. Let's try the Kanban way. Kanban is a pull system. Let's see what that means and how it promotes a healthy flow of work. In Kanban, we must finish one work item in order to make room for a new work item to come in. Then our team can pull a new work item from the to-do pile. Of course, our team needs to be empowered to decide on its own when to pull in new work. This way of working keeps the work flowing, increases throughput, and decreases lead time. In Kanban, we have a saying, stop starting and start finishing, meaning stop starting new work and start finishing existing work. Okay, wonderful. So Kanban does its magic by keeping work flowing. I still don't see it. Can you show me how it works and how I can implement it for my team? Sure. So Kanban has 6 practices. By implementing these 6 practices, our team can start on its journey to work the Kanban way. Of course, it will take lots of practice and experimentation to master and refine it. Let's walk through those 6 practices and show you visually how they work. Okay, so first things first, our team must visualize everything about its work. By visualize, we mean it has to be visible and easily accessible at all times to the entire team. After all, how can we manage something we can't see? It can be on a physical board in our team's physical work area, or in today's digital world, accessible online via a tool like Jira, for example. So what exactly needs to be visible? For starters, our team's workflow needs to be visible. What steps are there in the workflow to get a work item to done? Then we need to see all the work items on this board. Wait, I'm not sure I was clear. All the work items. There shouldn't be work we're doing that is not captured on this board, because that will throw off our true capacity. But that's not all. There are certain characteristics about these work items that are really useful to see visually in order to effectively manage flow. We need to know if certain items must be expedited through our system of work. These are typically reserved for items with critical priority with a very high cost of delay. They need to be clearly marked. It is typical to allow only one expedite item to flow through our system at any given time. We also want to know about and clearly mark work items with a specific due date. Make sure work items marked with a due date are truly associated with a high cost if we fail to deliver on time, and not just slapped with a due date just because. We're also very interested in work items that are getting stale in our system of work. Those work items that just get stuck and don't get to done. They hinder flow, right? Some tools like Jira automatically show how long a work item has been lingering in a particular step or lingering in our system in general. Now, remember we said Kanban is a pull system. That means that when a work item is done, we don't just push it forward to the next step in our workflow. No. Instead, we mark it done. So when we're ready, we can pull it to the next step. This will be much clearer very soon. But for now, what this means is we need a way to mark work items as being complete with a given step and ready to move on. Now that our work is visible and clearly marked, we can manage it, right? Well, almost. Next, we want to put some constraints on our system of work to represent the reality of how much work we can actually get done. We do this by putting limits on our work in progress. For example, at step 3, how many work items can we handle at once? Maybe the type of work at step 3 limits us to 3 work items at any given time. Since we only have 1 work item at step 3, there's room for 2 more. Maybe at step 2 we can handle up to 3 items as well. And at step 1 we can handle up to 2. These are things we learn by trial and error over time. But keep in mind that work in progress limits could instead be applied on the whole system rather than on each column separately. So for example, we could say we'll work on 8 items max at any given time across the board. Work in progress limits could also be applied on individuals to discourage multitasking even more. Imposing work in progress limits supports flow. If we didn't impose limits, then we are in high risk that work will just pile up in one column or another, increasing stress and anxiety on the team, making our board unmanageable, and bringing our system of work to a screeching halt. Once we can visualize our work, and we impose work in progress limits, we can start to manage flow. How do we manage flow? We walk the board on a cadence. If the type of work we do tends to flow relatively fast, we may want to walk the board daily. If the type of work we do tends to flow slower, we may want to walk the board weekly. But what do we mean by walk the board? Walking the board is when we get together as a team, pull up the board, and plan how today we're going to help the work get closer to done. Interestingly, when we walk the board, we actually do it right to left and top down, not left to right as you may think. That's weird. Why would you do a silly thing like that? Remember the Kanban saying, stop starting and start finishing? Remember how Kanban is a pull system, not a push system? Recall that Kanban is all about flow. We want to keep things moving within our constraints. We want to get work that is closer to done out of the way to make room for new work to enter our system. Okay, great. Brain overload. Can you just show me how to walk the board? Yeah, sure. Let's do that. If you need a moment to rest, pause the video as we're getting into the home stretch. Before we start walking the board, let's take a moment to look at the board. Since it's visual and all, notice in step 3 we have 2 open spots. In step 2 we have 1 expedite item and 1 complete item ready to move on. In step 1 we have 1 complete item ready to move on and 1 item that is stale, meaning it sat here stuck for a very long time. And in the to-do column we have a bunch of work we haven't started on yet. Okay, let's walk the board. Before we walk it right to left, we need to talk about the expedite item in step 2, because we have one and it needs to be expedited so it has priority. We ask the person working on it if they need any help from anyone to move it along. Is there an impediment or something blocking it from moving forward? If so, we talk about what needs to get done to get it unblocked or how to escalate it. Once we take care of the expedite item, we are ready to walk the board right to left. We first talk about the work item in step 3. We notice it is not marked as complete, so it is not ready to move on yet. If we need someone to jump on this work, then we ask for a volunteer on the team. If someone is already working on it, then we ask if they need help from someone or if there's an impediment blocking it, and if so, try to address it. Next, we move on to this item in step 2, because we already talked about the expedite item. We notice this item is marked complete and is ready to move on, so we move it to the open spot in step 3. What if there was no open spot in step 3? Then we wouldn't be moving it yet. Notice that moving this item created an open spot in step 2. We move on to the third item in step 2. We talk about what can be done to move it along. We then move to the first item in step 1 and notice it is marked complete and that there is an open spot in step 2. So we move it to step 2, which created an opening in step 1. We can then talk about the other item in step 1, noticing it is stale as it has been sitting in step 1 for a long time. We talk about what is holding it up and how the team can help it move along. Finally, because there is an opening in step 1, we pull in new work from the to-do column to start working on it. That's it. We finished walking the board. We can now end the team meeting and let the team get to their work. Until the next time we walk the board. Okay, we're halfway through talking about the practices of Kanban, but we went through the hard stuff already. So good job getting this far. What is left is easier and quicker to talk about. The fourth practice is making policies explicit. This means that as a team, we agree to the rules we work by. We document these rules in our team's working agreement and make this working agreement visible and easily accessible to the team. These rules can include common things like our work in progress limits, how we handle expedite and fixed date work items, how we escalate impediments, and so on. The point is for the team to decide and agree on these rules, and for the team to hold each other accountable to follow these rules. The fifth practice is implementing feedback loops. This means we're interested in monitoring how well our system of work is performing. Is the way we're working optimal? There are a few ways to implement feedback loops. First, there's metrics. Do we know our throughput? Do we know our cycle time? Tools like Jira automatically measure these things for us. How many work items are we getting done as a team in a given time period? How long does it take us on average to work an item from start to finish? This is feedback we want. Another useful feedback loop is for the team to periodically hold retrospective sessions, where we ask ourselves what is working well and what is not working so well. Yet another way to get feedback is by simply asking our customers about how satisfied they are with the way we're delivering work. Yes, it's okay to talk to your customers about this. Finally, the sixth practice of Kanban is improving collaboratively and evolving experimentally. Now that we made our team working agreements explicit, followed them, and got feedback on how well they work, it is up to us to own the way we work and be brave to change the way we work and experiment with better ways of working. It is up to us to continuously try to improve the way we work, to increase throughput, to reduce cycle time, to improve the quality of our work, to reduce stress, and increase happiness on the team. Before we wrap up this video, let me leave you with one bit of advice. Before even attempting to implement Kanban as a way for your team to manage its work, if you really want to be successful, you need to first ensure the team has psychological safety and that it is empowered. What this means is that team members have a working environment where they feel it is safe not knowing things, safe to learn, safe to experiment with new ways, safe to fail, learn, and adapt, safe to challenge the status quo, and safe to speak up, all without negative consequences, without being embarrassed, rejected, or punished by their leaders and peers. It also means the team needs to be empowered to make their own decisions on how they work and how much work they can take on. All this would not work in a command and control type of environment, where a boss tells the team how to work and how much work to tackle. You don't want a team that just follows orders. Isn't that a waste of brain power? Self-organizing teams have so much more potential to succeed. Let them surprise you. That's it. Now go try it out with your team. It won't be perfect, but you gotta start somewhere.